Welcome back to my infrared channel. Today we will talk about plants. What are they doing with light? First we will talk a little bit about the mechanisms and show some satellites or observations of plants, and then I'm gonna show you some own pictures. First, if you have a healthy leaf, light is coming on it and the plant is swallowing up the green, but basically just reflects the infrared fully. So it doesn't use it and it goes away. But this is just one aspect that is happening. Here you can see what happens with the full spectrum and what is reflected and what is absorbed, so swallowed. Here you can see the chlorophyll absorbs very strongly, whereas in the infrared most of it gets through, but there are some absorption bands for the water absorption. And they can be interesting for people looking at plants from space, because they can see how healthy the plants are based by how much water they contain. And this graph also shows that you can have signatures for different plants, for example corn here, or tulip poplar, or soybeans. So specialists can also look how healthy the plants are depending on this spectrum. This is, as you can see, this is near infrared and shortwave infrared. There's also an example for long-wave infrared. There are some plants that do something funny. As you can see on this long-wave infrared image here, the plant more or less heats up its flower with the leaves. The sun is shining on the leaves and the leaves reflect the infrared light, and the infrared light then help to heat up the flower. Why does the plant do that? It's attracting insects. And the second question is, can the insect see the flower when it's hot? Actually, they can't see it with their eyes, but they can feel it with their antenna. That's what the plant is doing. So plants from the beginning had a very intimate relationship to insects, and often it's not actually the insect that does the intelligent work, but the plant. Then I'm gonna show you some satellite observations. Here is one example, but as you can see, this measures 3 different bands and only one of them is slightly in the infrared, the others are in the visual. So from the picture you can differentiate what is vegetation, what is snow plus salt, and what is rock, depending on these false colors. And this is an image specialized to see chlorophyll. This light green is chlorophyll. And this reminds us that back in the days when the Earth didn't have oxygen in its atmosphere, all of a sudden something happens, which were the algae. The algae started to produce oxygen, and first it was swallowed up by chemistry to rust things, and then at some stage some free oxygen was released in the atmosphere and oxygen was accumulating, which was actually deadly for many animals and back then. And starting from then, the Earth's atmosphere has oxygen, and some animals succeeded in adapting to the oxygen, and now we're using it and can't live without it. And most of the oxygen is produced by algae, still not by trees. Now some own pictures. This is a bush close to where I live, and the bush is already quite green in the January. So this is an example for how the plants just reflect away the infrared. Here I took a filter that filters out everything below 1000 nanometers. So everything you can see on this image is near infrared. And this picture is also funny because it's also in January, and you think on the full spectrum picture and also on the near picture that there is some snow on around this tree, but there isn't. The white thing is actually the grass growing, and you could hardly see the grass by eye, but in the infrared it's very bright. And this is an example of what artists do with infrared photography of plants, which is quite nice. Thanks a lot for the attention.